Hey, it's Laura and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be sharing a process video for my 2018 December daily Reason for the Season page in my Traveler's Notebook. I am super excited to share this process video with you. It is very much inspired by a Christmas card that Kay Warner Designs shared on YouTube. I will make sure to link that in my video description if you want to check out her Christmas card. Moving on to the page that I will be creating, I hand drew this peace on earth sentiment up at the top of my page. And I did that because I wanted to make sure that I had a rough draft. I knew exactly where I wanted to put my Versamark and my embossing powder. First, you see me go over my sketched phrase with a marker so that way I could see the design through on the back side of the page, and then I flipped the page over and traced over the sentiment with a pencil. Then I flip it back to right side up, and I am going over that sentiment one more time with the pencil. That way, when I'm tracing over it with the pencil on the front side, it transfers some of that carbon onto the back. And essentially, it becomes like copy paper without having to go out and buy copy paper. You can see my sketched sentiment here on my final piece of cardstock for my page. And now I'm just grabbing my Versamarker and I'm going to use that to trace over that sentiment so I can emboss it. Any of the products that I will be using in this video, I will go ahead and link down below in case you want to get them or make a similar page for yourself. I am just heat embossing this sentiment, and the first time that I heat embossed it, and you could see here as I put the powder onto the page and I flick off the excess, that not very much powder stuck the first time. And once I heat embossed that once, I went back over it with a marker and more powder another time and heat embossed it a second time. And that created a really, really beautiful finished look. I don't know if it's just the Versamarker that I have, but I have found that I need to go over anything that I draw or write 2 or 3 times with the marker, the powder, and then the heat embossing with my heat tool before it creates a really pretty raised, nice, solid sentiment. Next, I have these really cute houses that I have cut out from some 12 by 12 patterned paper. And I love them. They're super vintage and cute. They come in several different colors. I tried to stick with mostly pinks and greens, and I really wanted this card to have the peace on earth sentiment up top and then a pretty village down below. So it was kind of like Jesus on the top looking over all of his people down below in the Christmas village. And you can see me fuss around with these houses for a while, and I rearranged them and I tried to find an arrangement that I think looks really good and creates a nice frame along the bottom of the page to kind of mirror the nice frame that's going along the top of the page with that phrase up there. Once I find an arrangement that I like, I grab my double-sided tape and I start taping down all of the houses on the top row. And I also tape down some Christmas trees that I decided to cut out of the same patterned paper and include in the small gaps between some of the houses. The houses on the bottom row and one of the houses from the top row come from one patterned paper that has the cute vintage houses on it, and all of the other houses that are in the top row come from a black and white house drawn paper. And that was a paper that I decided to cut out the houses and I colored them in with some markers that I already had on hand that kind of matched the pink and green scene. And the reason I did that is because the paper that had the really cute vintage houses in it only had 4 different styles of houses, and I didn't want to keep repeating the same houses. So I cut some out from that other paper and just colored them in to match. I loved the idea of adding some more texture to the page and some depth to it. And the peace on earth phrase up on top is pretty raised off of the page because I used 2 or 3 different layers of the heat embossing. And the houses that were taped in the second row straight down to the page with double-sided tape were very flat against the paper. And when you laid the houses on the bottom row directly on top of them, the scene just looked very flat. And I wanted to give it a little more life and dimension. So I went ahead and I used some sticky foam tape on the back of those houses, or some pop dots, or whatever you want to call that specific kind of adhesive. That way they would be raised slightly up from the houses in the background. This is a reason for the season page, so I wanted to do some journaling about my reason for the season, and I really chose that sentiment up on top, peace on earth, for a specific purpose. And that is because my relationship with God has really grown this year, and I hope it to continue to grow. But for the first time in my adult life, Christmas, I really want this year to focus on Christ and my gratitude for Jesus and how much he loves me and how extremely grateful I am for his grace and his friendship. And so I grab my ruler and a pencil and I draw out some journaling lines that can guide me when I grab my pen and start journaling my reason for the season down on the page. I like to have that penciled guide, so that way when I start using my pen and I am journaling, I don't have to worry about going in a straight line or trying to eyeball it, because inevitably what would happen is I would ruin this beautiful page that I just finished making with my journaling, and I don't want to ruin it, I want to add to it. So I love using those pencil marks to just guide me, and I allow a few minutes for the ink to totally dry from my pen after I'm done journaling, and then I can easily go back in and use an eraser to erase any of those measured lines or dots that I used as a guide. You can see me mess around with a gold sequin here and decide that I don't want the sequin on there after all. I like the page with a lot of white space and keeping it simple, especially because I'm doing traditional red and green this year and it's a lot of color going on. So I put the insert into this clear dashboard, and I have a YouTube video I just shared on how to make those clear dashboards with the sequin shaker pages. And this is it, the finished page and how it looks in my notebook. You could see the page I'm pointing to right now that's all plain white will end up with a full page photo on it. And I love that reason for the season page. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out my YouTube channel for more videos and subscribe so you don't miss any of the fun December Daily Traveler's Notebook stuff. Bye!